Eli Thompson had spent most of his life under the vast, endless skies of the prairie. His ranch stretched for miles, dotted with brown and green patches where cattle grazed peacefully. Life out here was not easy. The sun could be harsh, summers long and dry, and winters bitterly cold. Yet Eli found comfort in routine. Every morning he would wake before the first light, check on the cattle, repair fences, and make sure everything ran smoothly. Life was simple, steady, and predictable, just the way he liked it. But there was one thing missing: a companion to share this quiet life. For months, Eli had written letters to a woman named Mary Whitaker. Mary lived in a small town far away, and her letters spoke of her dreams of a calm life on a ranch, helping around the home, tending to animals, and sharing quiet evenings by the fireplace. Eli had waited eagerly for her arrival, counting the days on a small wooden calendar in his cabin. He imagined meeting her at the station, welcoming her with a polite smile and showing her the ranch that had been his world for so long. He pictured her soft voice, her gentle hands, and the warm meals they would share together. When the day finally came, Eli walked down the dusty path to the stagecoach stop with a sense of excitement mixed with nervous anticipation. He carried a small bouquet of wildflowers he had picked from the edge of the prairie. His boots kicked up tiny clouds of dust as he scanned the horizon, expecting to see Mary stepping down with a suitcase in her hand, looking around shyly but with hope in her eyes. Instead, what arrived was not Mary Whitaker. The stagecoach rattled to a stop, and out leapt a figure dressed in a bright, mismatched coat covered with sequins and patches. A tall hat sat slightly crooked on his head, and his boots were scuffed in a way that suggested he had seen many roads, not just one. In one hand he clutched a large rolled-up map tied with a red ribbon, and in the other a small suitcase that rattled every time he moved. The stranger bowed dramatically and then gave a wide, playful grin that made Eli blink in disbelief. Hello?" Eli said cautiously. The man straightened, tipped his hat again, and said with a flourish, "Greetings, sir. The name is Luca Marlowe, magician, adventurer, and seeker of mysteries." Eli's eyebrows knitted together. Sorry, I was expecting Mary Whitaker. The mail-order bride?" Luca's grin didn't falter. "Ah, yes, the lady of your letters. But destiny, my good man, has a different plan. I am here now, and I bring excitement, wonder, and perhaps treasure." Eli stared at him, unsure whether to be angry, confused, or amused. His orderly life had been carefully planned, and now, suddenly, this stranger had arrived, bursting with energy and mystery. The first hours were chaos. Luca insisted on showing Eli all of his magical tricks, pulling handkerchiefs from his hat, juggling small objects, and even pretending to vanish behind the wagon, only to reappear on the other side. Eli tried to stay polite, nodding and smiling, but he felt his patience being tested. He had expected calm and quiet, not a whirlwind of bright colors, strange noises, and unexplained antics. By late afternoon, Eli decided he had to address the situation. "Listen," he said, trying to keep his voice firm but fair. "You're not who I was expecting. I had someone else coming, someone who wanted a quiet life on this ranch. I don't know what you want here, but I have work to do." Luca's expression softened slightly, though his eyes still sparkled with mischief. "Ah, dear Eli, I understand your confusion. But life is rarely as simple as letters and plans. I did not come to cause trouble. I came because this ranch is on my path, and I have a map that I must protect. It is very important, you see. Dangerous people might be looking for it." Eli raised an eyebrow. "A map? Dangerous people? On my ranch?" "Yes, exactly. But fear not, for I am a magician and I can handle myself," Luca replied with a bow, then twirled and spun around before leaning casually against the wagon. Eli shook his head and walked away, muttering under his breath. This was going to be a very long day. As the sun began to sink behind the hills, Eli tried to focus on his work, but it was difficult. Luca was everywhere, moving through the barn, inspecting the cattle, and occasionally disappearing behind the fence only to reappear suddenly with a small flourish. Eli had spent years building this life carefully, and now it felt like a storm had arrived with no warning. Despite his frustration, Eli could not help noticing Luca's skills. The man could calm a skittish horse with a quiet word and a gentle touch, and when he tried to help with the cattle, his unusual methods actually worked. Luca's hands moved in strange, precise patterns that somehow guided the animals instead of startling them. Slowly, Eli began to see that the stranger's chaos was not entirely without purpose. Evening came, and the prairie grew quiet. The wind rustled through the grass, carrying the faint scent of wildflowers and the distant sound of cattle lowing. Eli made a simple dinner of beans and bread, sitting on the porch and thinking about the day. Luca had disappeared into the cabin for a while, and the ranch seemed to breathe again. But Eli could not shake the feeling that this man, so different from anyone he had ever known, was about to change everything. When Luca reappeared, he carried a small fire lantern and placed it carefully on the table. "Dinner is ready, Eli," he announced with theatrical flair. "I hope you enjoy a meal with a touch of magic." Eli raised an eyebrow. "Magic in beans and bread?" Luca winked. "Perhaps not in the food, but in the company." Eli chuckled despite himself and sat down. The conversation that followed was strange and fascinating. Luca told tales of traveling circuses, exotic cities, and narrow escapes from those who sought the map. Eli listened, intrigued despite his better judgment. He had spent so long in solitude that he had forgotten how stories could capture the imagination. By the time the stars appeared in the clear night sky, Eli realized he was no longer thinking about the bride he had been expecting. He was thinking about the man across from him, who had walked into his life like a whirlwind, bringing unpredictability and adventure. He didn't fully trust Luca yet, but he could not deny that his presence had made the ranch feel alive in a way it never had before. That night, as Eli lay in bed, he thought about the letters, the plans, and the life he had imagined. Maybe, he realized, life didn't always follow the careful path he had set. Maybe the best experiences were the ones he could never have planned for. And somewhere in the dark, the shadow of a man with a sparkling coat and a stolen map moved quietly through the barn, whispering secrets that the prairie itself seemed to listen to. Eli didn't know what tomorrow would bring. He only knew that it would be different. The ranch, the plains, and even his heart had opened to the unexpected, and somehow that was a beginning. The morning sun rose slowly over the wide prairie, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and gold. Eli Thompson stepped outside his cabin, stretching his arms and breathing in the crisp air. The ranch was quiet, the cattle grazing peacefully, but the day promised no quiet for him or his unexpected guest. Luca Marlowe, the Runaway Circus magician, was already up and bustling about, moving with energy that seemed impossible for one person. Eli shook his head, a mixture of amusement and exasperation on his face. "You never stop, do you?" he muttered as Luca juggled a set of small metal balls near the barn. "Never," Luca replied with a grin, catching each ball perfectly. "A magician's work is never done, and a map like mine must be protected at all times. Who knows who might be watching?" Eli frowned, thinking about the danger Luca had mentioned. He had spent the night worrying about the strangers Luca had hinted at, and he wasn't sure how prepared he was for trouble. Yet as he watched Luca move with such confidence and skill, he felt a small flicker of hope. Perhaps this man, chaotic as he was, could help protect the ranch in ways Eli never imagined. Breakfast was a quiet affair, with simple bread, eggs, and tea. Eli kept glancing at Luca, wondering what plan he might have. But Luca seemed more interested in demonstrating a new trick than discussing danger. He pulled a deck of cards from his pocket and began performing sleight-of-hand maneuvers, flipping and shuffling them so quickly that Eli could hardly follow. "You're distracting me," Eli said, laughing despite himself. "I need to focus on the ranch. Something tells me trouble isn't far off." Luca's grin widened. But distractions can be useful, my friend. A sharp mind and quick hands will help us when the time comes. Trust me, it will all make sense soon." Just as he finished speaking, a distant cloud of dust appeared on the horizon. Eli squinted, frowning. It was not unusual to see dust in the distance, but this cloud moved with purpose, and Eli's instincts told him something was wrong. "They're coming," Luca whispered, his usual energy replaced by a serious tone. "The ones who want the map. We must be ready." Eli felt a surge of fear mixed with determination. He had spent years building a life of peace and solitude, and now it was being threatened. But he could not let anyone endanger his home or the people, and one unpredictable man he had come to care about. They moved quickly, setting up the ranch with careful preparation. Luca hid the map in a small secret compartment in the barn, while Eli secured the gates and gathered the cattle closer to the main pasture. They checked their tools, their supplies, and even improvised some clever traps using ropes and pulleys. Luca's creativity was remarkable. He could take ordinary items and turn them into clever defenses, and Eli couldn't help but admire him. Despite the chaos he brought, by mid-afternoon the dust cloud had grown closer, and figures on horseback appeared in the distance. Eli and Luca watched silently, hearts pounding. The strangers were organized and well-armed, moving with precision and purpose. It was clear they were not ordinary thieves, but people who knew exactly what they were after. "Stay calm," Luca whispered. "We'll outsmart them. Magic isn't just tricks. It's about seeing possibilities where others see none." The first wave of attackers reached the outer fence. Eli and Luca waited until they were within range, then triggered the traps Luca had set. Nets fell from above, ropes tangled, and Eli's quick aim sent rocks rolling toward the riders. The attackers were caught off guard, their organized charge disrupted. Chaos erupted, and in the confusion, Eli and Luca moved swiftly, guiding the cattle to a safe enclosure. Despite the danger, Eli felt a strange thrill. He had faced challenges before, but never like this. He was forced to think quickly, move carefully, and trust another person completely. And that person, Luca, was unlike anyone he had ever met, clever, daring, and endlessly resourceful. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, the attackers regrouped, realizing their first attempt had failed. Eli and Luca retreated to the barn, hiding the map and catching their breath. They could hear the faint shouts and the sound of hooves as the pursuers spread out. "We need a plan," Eli said, his voice steady but urgent. "We can't stay here forever. They'll come back and stronger next time." Luca nodded. "Agreed, but first we need to understand the map. It's more than just directions, it's a key, a secret waiting to be discovered. And if we find what it leads to, we can ensure the safety of the ranch and ourselves." The two men spread the map across a table in the barn. Luca pointed to a series of marks and symbols, explaining their meaning in simple terms. Eli listened carefully, trying to follow the intricate details. It was clear that the map led to something valuable, perhaps a lost gold mine hidden somewhere in the hills beyond the ranch. The thought of treasure was exciting, but Eli's concern remained the safety of his home and the people he now trusted. Over the next few days, Eli and Luca worked together like a team. They repaired fences, prepared supplies, and scouted the surrounding area for signs of the attackers. Each day, Eli saw more of Luca's talents, not just his tricks, but his intelligence, courage, and resourcefulness. Luca could find clever solutions to problems that Eli had never considered, and his energy inspired Eli to see the ranch in a new light. At night, they would sit by the fire, sharing stories. Eli spoke of his life on the prairie, the hard work, the quiet joys, and the loneliness. Luca shared tales of his travels with the circus, the excitement of the crowds, the thrill of performance, and the dangers he had faced. Their conversations created a bond built on trust and mutual respect. Eli realized that he no longer wished for the predictable life he had imagined with Mary Whitaker. His world had become larger, richer, and more alive with Luca in it. One evening, as they planned their next move, a sudden noise outside startled them. A small group of strangers had managed to sneak close to the barn. Eli and Luca moved silently, using the traps and clever tactics they had prepared. The strangers were caught off guard, and the brief skirmish ended quickly, with the attackers retreating. "Those were scouts," Luca said, examining the area carefully. "They will return, and soon. But we are ready. Together we can face them." Eli nodded, feeling a sense of confidence he had never known before. The ranch, once a place of quiet routine, had become a stronghold of courage and cleverness. And the man beside him, once a chaotic stranger, had become an indispensable partner, someone he trusted with his home and his life. Days passed, and the tension gradually eased as the pursuers seemed to vanish. The map had been carefully hidden, and Eli and Luca continued to explore the land, learning more about its secrets. The adventure brought a new rhythm to the ranch, blending work with excitement, danger with discovery. Eli found himself laughing more, thinking more creatively, and feeling a sense of joy he had long forgotten. One afternoon, as they watched the sunset over the hills, Eli turned to Luca. "I never expected this," he admitted. "I thought life would be quiet and predictable, and yet, I can't imagine it any other way now." Luca smiled, his eyes reflecting the colors of the sky. Life is full of surprises, my friend. The best adventures often come when we least expect them. You opened your home to me and I brought a little chaos, but perhaps that chaos was exactly what we both needed. Eli nodded, feeling the truth of Luca's words. The ranch had changed, as had he. The solitary life he had imagined was no longer enough. With Luca, the plains felt alive, full of possibilities, wonder, and hope. They had faced danger, outsmarted those who sought to harm them, and discovered a friendship stronger than either had expected. That night, as the stars blanketed the sky, Eli and Luca sat quietly by the fire, the map safely hidden and the ranch secure. The prairie stretched endlessly around them, silent but alive with the promise of new adventures. Eli realized that life's greatest treasures were not always gold or wealth, but trust, courage, and unexpected companionship. And somewhere in the quiet, the magician's laughter echoed softly, a reminder that even in the most ordinary places, magic could be found. The ranch had become more than a home. It had become a place of friendship, adventure, and discovery. Eli knew that whatever the future held, he was ready. The unexpected had arrived, and with it a new life had begun.